The concept of the fanzine is fairly novel in the fast-paced world of modern fandom, where everyone can find anything in a few seconds with a few clicks. But before the internet, zines were absolutely critical to the cohesion of fandoms. You do it.
Why?
No good in front of the camera.
Probably the first thing you think of when you hear the word zine, if you've heard it at all, is a pamphlet that looks like a punk rock rancid note. And you wouldn't be wrong. Zines were a huge, important part of underground punk rock culture. But they go back much further than that. The first zine, in fact, was The Comet, published in 1930. You can read more about that and the history of the zine as a whole in an article from Book Riot that I've linked in the description. In general, though, zines are characterized by being basically homemade MAGA zines, get it? By fans, for fans, catering to a niche, be it science fiction, punk music, or subversive politics. Or comics. Did you know that fanzines were pretty important in shaping the world of comics as we know it? Because despite my possibly unhealthy love of the medium, Possibly, I didn't. But Columbia University recently had a small exhibit of comic fanzines on display that I was able to see, and it was pretty eye-opening. Publication of fanzines was practically an industry of its own, with most of them being started by teenage fans. 14 or 15 seemed to be the ideal age. And a lot of the people who worked on those zines ended up becoming pretty famous, at least in the comic world. Also, Harlan Ellison wrote a review of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho in Zero Number 1. That one really caught me by surprise. I tried to find a link, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to have made it online. However, there is a book, The Best of Zero, which contains it. Another surprise? Marv Wolfman of New Teen Titans fame, among many, many others, had a horror zine and was the first to publish Stephen King. I feel like, as both a King fan and a comic fan, I should have known that. But here we are. Other notable names who started in zines include Roy Thomas, who would later become the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics after Stan Lee, Art Spiegelman, who would write and draw the World War II memoir Mouse, the first graphic novel to win a Pulitzer Prize, and Mark Gruenwald, another future Marvel editor whose memory was apparently so incredible that he was in charge of keeping track of continuity, a Herculean task for even the most dedicated fan. Zines weren't just a starting point for future creators either. For example, Voice of Comicdom number 14 featured an interview with the late Neil Adams, who was at that time just getting started at DC and would go on to become one of the most important forces in defining Batman as we know him. Gruenwald cut his teeth tracking the multiverse for fans in his zine Omniverse. There were quizzes and instructions on how to use a Spirit Master to print your own zines, though these days you're better off sending a PDF to Staples or Kinko's, apparently now just called FedEx Office, not sponsored. Zines even led to the creation of the first comic conventions, including my beloved New York Comic Con. Nowadays, the internet has taken the place of zines. Anyone can start a blog about anything. Just look at us, and not have to worry about printing costs or figuring out how to get it into people's hands. There are countless places for people to share their work, be it original art, fan fiction, or original stories. Fandom is more accessible than ever, and I think that's largely a good thing. The more people are interested in something, the longer it endures, after all. But on the other hand, fanzines were acts of love. The internet gives an awful lot of space for naysayers and gatekeepers to be heard, and that's definitely been responsible for turning some people away from comics or other fandoms, sometimes even before giving it a chance. Zines these days are few and far between, and are often less about communication and shared passion than they are art projects or statement pieces. Video killed the radio star, and the internet killed, or at least crippled, the zine. but the fact that they've managed to keep even a modicum of relevance is a testament to their power and versatility, and their importance as historical artifacts, especially for comics and speculative fiction, shouldn't be underestimated.